Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Todd Klindt's SharePoint podcast number 287, coming to you live Monday, April 4th, 2016. I'm your host, Todd Klindt, and I'm glad to be back in my regular recording digs. I was away last week, and where was I? The home office of Rackspace, and that leads me to our sponsor, Rackspace. Go out to sharepoint.rackspace.com, and we've got all kinds of great SharePoint things out there, different products and services, and all the manner of the SharePointy things are at sharepoint.rackspace.com. You can also go to rackspace.com/Microsoft and find out what other Microsoft products we have that you probably have, that you would love to have us have, so you can do the thing that you want to do and not keep the Microsoft products running. But you can't go wrong at rackspace.com/Microsoft and sharepoint.rackspace.com. And then finally, you're probably desperately curious about me and who I am and what I do. You can go out to Twitter. I'm at Todd Klindt. You can go to toddklindt.com. That's my blog. I'm on Instagram at Todd Klindt. I have never posted to Instagram, though last week I did reply to my first, posted my first comment on Instagram. I follow Brian Brushwood of Scam School fame, and I don't know if I can't remember what his Instagram title is, but he posted a picture of something, of him holding something, and somebody left a comment that said, looks like Brian bites his nails. And so I replied, well, that's probably better than biting someone else's nails. But that's all I've ever done at Instagram, but I'm out there at Instagram also. I'm all over the social media thing. It's a good time. So you can check that out, toddklindt.com and at Todd Klindt on Twitter. Okay, so, that's the wrong one. I'm having technical difficulties with my, so normally my slide, that slide is the third monitor on this PC, but my third monitor slot, my little adapter died about, call it 27 minutes ago. So now my slides are running on a different machine, and I've got multiple mice, and it's made, you guys are just lucky I'm here is what it all boils down to. You're lucky that I was able to put this all together because of all the insurmountable hardware errors that I had. Also, I forgot to charge my batteries on my lights today. So at any moment, these two lights could just, the screen could just go dark, which honestly is probably not a horrible thing for you guys. Those of you on the audio, it's already dark, so you don't have to worry about it. For those of you suffering through the video, a little less light would probably work in my favor, honestly. Anyway, on to production notes. Last week, I was in the castle, and I was able to, for the first time, since this is the first time I've recorded my podcast during the workday that I've been in the castle, that I was able to record in the actual studios at Rackspace. So they've got studios. We saw them last week. If you don't normally watch the video, check out number 286 and check out the studio there. I've been in the studio before and done other things for Rackspace, but never my own podcast. But I was able to do that last week. Had a good time. Brought in Mark Watts, one of my coworkers. He came in. That was a good time. They're redoing that studio. Hopefully next time I'm down there, I'll be able to use the other studio room and have a little better setup. I was not well prepared. I had a lot going on that day and didn't prepare ahead of time, didn't have all my software installed on my laptop, things like that. But the next time will be better. I was also dressed up because of some meetings I was going to. I had to wear a coat. So I was wearing a sport coat or suit coat or whatever the hell you call it. I was wearing a shirt with a collar. I looked like I looked like I just come from court. Honestly, that's what I looked like. So if you don't normally watch the video, check out 286. You can go to toddklindt.com/podcast 286. It was a good one, but that was a good time. The next time I get down to the castle, I've got that all processed down. It should be good. Now, and I planned on that next time being next week. I have to go back down to San Antonio next week, but I made my arrangements early on after we'd switched the times, and I forgot when I do the podcast. So I don't land in San Antonio until 4:36, which if you've ever used airplane Wi-Fi, you probably know I'm not going to be able to do the podcast at 4 o'clock Central. So that won't be happening. I won't be able to do it from the studio next week. More bad news, the weekend after that, I'm going to be at Dev Intersection in Orlando. Also made my flight so that I'm in the air at 4 o'clock Central. So for the next 2 weeks, you fine folks, and you don't deserve this. Let's be clear. You've done nothing to deserve this at all. For the next 2 weeks, Shane's going to be filling in. I know. And I can't be more contrite about this. I feel horrible. Lori mentions good news. she will still be here, so we can do all that. Joanne Klein is plugging for a regular meeting at 8 o'clock Central. I'm probably just going to be sitting in my hotel room Monday night. I don't know. We might be able to work something out. Hang out on Twitter. We'll find out. But I have no idea what Shane's going to talk about. I can only assume that he's going to spend both of those afternoons with you guys talking about how cool I am, how much he looks up to me, how I've always been an inspiration to him, those kind of things. It gets old after a while, but I get why he does it. I can't blame the kid. He can't help it. But you will get Shane for the next 2 weeks. But then, the third week after that, I won't hopefully have an excuse, and I'll be here where I ought to be, right here with you guys, where I want to be. On to the topics. Got a lot of topics this week, and so we're just kind of jump through them, give you a high level overview. The first couple are some good PowerShell topics that I've seen that I wanted to kind of pass on to you guys. If you're a SharePoint administrator, obviously you have to be well versed in the black art of PowerShell, but it's not just SharePoint anymore. I mean, it's been a SharePoint thing for like 6 years now, but now it's a Windows thing. It's an Office 365 administrator thing. It's an Office 365 power user thing. You have to understand the PowerShell and be able to bend it to your will. So there's a few links here that I've got. I've been lax on my PowerShell posts the last few podcasts, so this will hopefully make up for it. So the first of them is a walkthrough on how to write PowerShell functions. This one was written by Mike Robbins, so he is a PowerShell MVP, and he's done a lot of things. He won the PowerShell games a couple of years ago. Good guy, very helpful at all the big conferences, Ignite and Tech Ed and all that. And we all kind of go through the different phases of PowerShell mastery, and I only know them up to about the first grade level of PowerShell mastery. But we figure out a command that does what we need something to do, and we feel like we've conquered the world. We figure out how to chain together 2 or more commandlets to get something done and create an awesome one-liner, and we feel like we've conquered the world. And then we write a long PS1 file that does a bunch of things that we can run. Kind of the next evolution of that is writing reusable functions. And so you can load those up into your profile and have those, and it's not PS1 files. It's not kind of kludgy like that. But functions are another step. Functions have a specific structure, and there's things, and they can get very intimidating when you're trying to write a greenfield function. So normally what I do when I write a function, because I have no ability to remember or recall any programmery type things, and PowerShell has some of those aspects to it, though that does not make me a developer. Let's be clear about that. So normally what I do is I write these things in the PowerShell ISE, the integrated scripting environment that comes with Windows, and there's a snippet. So hit Control-J, snippet, and there are function snippets in there, and that kind of lays the framework out for your function so you can remember where the curly braces go and all that. So that's a good thing. Always use that, Control-J, snippet. But Mike has written a really good blog post on his process for writing functions, and he kind of walks through some of the different pieces of a function, parameters and commandlet binding and help and all these kind of things, and walks through each of those things that that take your PowerShell game up a level from PS1 files to functions, and how to execute them and why to execute them and why to make some of those decisions. So the Control-J snippets thing will give you the outline, the framework, but then Mike's thing will tell you what makes sense in each of the things and how to do that. So you should already be following Mike's blog, and for those of you on the audio, that's mikefrobbins.com. And you should already be following that. It should already be in your blog aggregator, and you should be following him on Twitter and maybe sitting outside of his house and just waving at him when he comes back and forth. But this is a particularly good one because that's kind of the next thing in your PowerShell evolution, is writing good functions. Writing functions, it has 2 very distinct advantages, and I'm doing the European counting this week if you haven't noticed. The first benefit that it has is it makes it easier for you to consume your stuff. You can load you can have a file, a PSD1 file that has all of your functions in it. You can load that up in your profile, and then they're all right there. You don't have to worry about being in the right directory and all that. But the other great thing that functions do is they make it easy for you to pass that on to somebody else. So you write a good function, put it in a shared library somewhere, and now somebody else can run your function, and you can go do cool things like write more PowerShell functions. So look into functions. That's a good one. Now, I can't remember if Mike linked this in his his blog post or not, but I like to talk when I'm doing the PowerShell session at conferences or wherever, just talking about PowerShell. I do that at parties. I'm very popular at parties. Talk about PowerShell. One of the things that I love most about PowerShell is the structure of PowerShell. When you start at Rackspace, you take the Gallup Strengths Finder test. Everybody should do that. Gallup, the poll people, Strengths Finder. I think I've talked about it before. Excellent stuff. One of my top 5 strengths is discipline, and that is making things in order and following prescribed orders. They nailed me dead on with that one. But one of the things I like about PowerShell is that structure. It makes it very easy to figure things out when you're looking at new commandlets. So I don't remember if Mike linked this in his blog post or not, but Microsoft has the strongly encouraged development guidelines for PowerShell. And this is the rules of PowerShell. Now, we've talked before, PowerShell's full name. PowerShell is kind of like Share and Madonna. It goes by a short name, but it has a full name, and its full name is Windows PowerShell. And the Windows group at Microsoft owns PowerShell under the loving, watchful eye of Jeffrey Snover. And these are the rules that they have set down. Now, whether you realize it or not, you've been enjoying these rules your entire time with PowerShell. And some of these rules are things like every commandlet should be verb or action - noun. That's one of these rules. Every noun should be singular. So no, is it get SP site or get SP sites? I can never remember. Written on tablet here, came down from the mountain. Nouns are singular. Parameters are singular also. If you have a parameter, it's going to be singular. All of these kind of rules that we didn't realize that we were following are in this document. So when you start writing functions, you sort of have a responsibility to write them correctly. So when you give your function a name, make sure you give it a verb - noun name and a singular one. All of the people that consume your function will thank you for it. And MC Hardbar in the chat room mentions one of the stages of PowerShell mastery, one of the very early ones, is finding terrible examples of PowerShell on TechNet. It's not just TechNet, it's the web, it's everywhere. There's some pretty bad examples, but that's what this document will do. Will hopefully let you be less of a bad example. But check that one out. It's a good one to just have in OneNote somewhere, so that when you're curious if you start something else, you can read through that and see how you should be doing it. Speaking of PowerShell, I've talked about this, and this is one of the things I talk about a lot when I do my PowerShell with Office 365 session at conferences. One of the things I talk about all the time is the Office Developer Patterns and Practices site. So dev.office.com, I think it's dev.office.com/PnP, is the Patterns and Practices website. Now, it's for developers, but don't be scared. Don't be scared. One of the big pieces of the patterns and practices is PowerShell. So, there's CSOM and all these other things, but the patterns and practices area of dev.office.com has a tremendous PowerShell library, 140 commands for using PowerShell with SharePoint Online. And when I talk to people about doing, when I talk to people about doing PowerShell with SharePoint Online, I kind of walk through the built-in commandlets and I walk through the Azure commandlets and some of that kind of stuff. But what I end up spending a lot of time on is this patterns and practices commandlets and how they've written those and what they can do for you. Because the SharePoint Online commandlets, the ones that come when you download from Microsoft, are very much about setting up your site collections, creating site collections, setting up authentication, but they don't go very far. What the patterns and practices PowerShell commandlets do is they take everything down to the list. So creating webs, creating lists, all kinds of things, all the things that you wish you could do with PowerShell, either as an administrator or an end user, they're in there. And they're well fleshed out, well done commandlets. I really like them. Also, they're fully supported. So it's not like you're downloading some weird, wild set of commandlets off of GitHub and you don't know who wrote them or if they did the right thing or if it's going to crypto locker your server or something. These are from Microsoft. They come right out of Microsoft's GitHub repository. And if you're doing anything with Office 365, SharePoint Online, grab the PnP things. But what they did this week is they put out a video, patterns and practices video, or this week or last week, I forget when it came out. And it's not just for devs. And when I was looking at, it came through my blog roll, and I was looking through what this video has, and one of the headlines in this video was using PnP PowerShell for streamlining your automation scripts. I like automating things. You like automating things. So I went, this is a sacrifice I made for you guys. I watched that video. It's an hour and 5 minutes, something like that. Watched all the boring developer-y things that made my eyes hurt, my ears twitch a little bit. And if you just want to watch the PowerShell part, it starts about minute 43. So you can watch that. They show the PowerShell commandlets. They give some really good demos. They give a demo that if you wanted to create a new list and create some drop downs and all that, how it looks in CSOM, which is how you would have to do the PowerShell yourself. And then they show it with the patterns and practices PowerShell. It's like 3 lines of PowerShell. Very much worth your time. The PowerShell bit's like 20 minutes, definitely worth your time. And another cool thing they talk about, though I don't think they show it explicitly, is when they're doing their demo and they connect to SharePoint Online with PowerShell, they don't get prompted for authentication. I don't know about you guys, but I hate typing passwords because I always forget them, and it's just horrible. I feel like 6 hours a week mistyping passwords. But one of the things they talk about is how you can use the Windows Credential Manager, and that shows up in, I think, Windows 8.1 and Windows 10 and Windows 2012 R2 servers. I forget, but it's the way that Windows safely stores credentials. And I talked about a couple of months ago, I showed a PowerShell script that pulls all those passwords out. You can use that to feed Connect SP Online. So that's another one. If you're using a lot of PowerShell with Office 365, the Credential Manager bit is a good bit to add. If you want to hack into any of MC Hardbar's things, he said in the chat room, password 1. He likes that one. I'm a fan. He's got the capital P, so he's got uppercase, lowercase numbers. It looks good. It seems like a fine, secure password. It's more than 8 characters. I wouldn't change a thing. That's good stuff right there. And I would, anybody else who wants to use that password, I think they should. But check that video out. Vesa and Irvin do a good job on that particular video. Another thing that I saw in the news this week that sort of cracked me up was Microsoft announcing they're having an Edge conference today, and boy, doesn't that sound like a damn riot to attend. Anyway, for those of you that have not upgraded to Windows 10 and did not immediately install something like Firefox or Chrome and set it to your default browser, Edge is Microsoft's new version of Internet Explorer that comes out with Windows 10. And they announced that with telemetry and all that, there are 150 million active devices using Edge. And my first thought with that was, what I'm hearing is 150 million incredibly frustrated people. Edge is just a horrible browser. I avoid Edge at all costs. Now, the good news is at Build last week, they talked about there's going to be some updates to Edge, plug-in support and things like that. Edge is just not a great browser. On Windows 10, Edge is not set to my default browser anywhere ever. But that was just horrible. Another funny thing that they said was that according to another survey or site or whatever, that Edge has, the traffic numbers for Edge have doubled between January and February of 2016. So I'm thinking that's went from, well, I guess they say 150 million users, but I just imagine this very small sliver of people, like 100 people using Edge in January to 200 people using Edge in February. It's just clumsy and can't like it. Another thing that they say is they compared Edge's first however amount of time with when Google Chrome came out. And they said that Edge is being used more in its first 7 months since launch than Google Chrome was in its first 7 months. I find that number to be mostly worthless for a couple of reasons. Now, they don't say, at least the thing that I saw, didn't say whether it was sheer number of users, more users use Edge now than used Chrome, or if it's percentage. Since Edge is built into the OS and Chrome was not, I think that gives it a leg up. The other thing that, again, if it's just numbers, Chrome came out in September of 2008. So nearly 8 years ago. before we had, smartphones like we do and all that. And Edge is the default browser on Windows Phone 10. So there's like 4 more people, I guess, that use that. But we've got all these little tablets and things like that. So I feel like that number is mostly useless. Like I feel like somebody on the Edge team went to marketing and said, you need to find 3 positive things to say about Edge. And the marketing guys are like, looks like we're we're going to be working all weekend, guys. We got to have 3 positive things to say about Edge by Monday. And things like it doesn't juggle kittens, isn't going to count. We're going to have to call in some interns. And but anyway, I saw that article. It kind of cracked me up. At Build, they did mention there's going to be plugin support, things like that. That's a step in the right direction, but Edge is just really tough. Another thing that I saw this weekend, so it was nice here in Iowa. It was nearly 80 yesterday here in Iowa. And so I went out for a run. And when I run, I always use my band 2 here. Let's do this. Come on, band 2, show them the time. There we go. So band 2 shuts the screen off automatically. So I also noticed that there was an update. So I went into my Microsoft Health app on my phone, my Android phone. There was an update for the band, and a couple of things came out of that. Number one, it supports more tiles on the front screen now, which is nice. I hate having to choose how many of my favorite tiles, which tiles are my favorite. Now I don't have to choose. Now I just have to choose which ones, go closer to the front. But now the band supports up to 20 tiles. And it wasn't in this article, but last week I think Microsoft released some things on how more easy framework for writing your own custom tiles for the band. So that's good. Another thing that they added, and I don't know if it was in this update or the last one, but they added some social things inside of the band app so you can have it tweet when you run or whatever, or go golfing. If you're into that kind of thing, that's in there. I've had the band 2 since it came out, so as soon as I could get it, and I really only use it for running. That's really, I use it for time and all that, but workout-wise, I use it for running. And it's been my experience the GPS doesn't seem to click as quickly on the band 2 as it did on the band 1. Now, the band 1 had the advantage that if I was running and was attacked by a rabid dog, I could clearly club them to death with the band 1, not so much with the band 2. But it always takes time. Usually when I run, I start in my driveway every time. And when I run, I end in my driveway. So this should be just the super simplest way for band to keep track of things. But every time it's like looking for GPS, go ahead and start. I'll catch up. And I've had a couple of times where it hasn't had my map of my run. So that makes me very disappointed. But for the most part, the band 2 has made me happy. I like the functionality. I like the look a little bit better. I wish the GPS jumped a little quicker. Got that. But if you've got a band 2, fire up your Microsoft Health app and see if you've got an update in there waiting for you. They've done a pretty good job of keeping that thing updated, and I've been pretty happy. Speaking of updates. So before we do, Joanne Klein just put in the chat room that a coworker of hers has had his band 2 for 6 weeks, and he's already seen cracking on the side of his wrist. Joanne, I wasn't going to say anything because I was talking about how great my band is, but I don't know if you can tell. I have cracking in my wrist, or there you kind of saw it. I have cracking in my band on my wrist too. So I was going to sometime today check the warranty and see what I have to do because the rubber's starting to crack on the side. But yep, I've seen it too. It's apparently a known defect. Well, good. I should have no problems getting it replaced then. That's excellent. But speaking of updates, if you're in the Windows Insider program or Microsoft Insider, whatever they're calling it, for Windows 10, a new update came out within the last week. And so I've got a bunch of devices. I've got a tablet or 2. I don't know if I've talked about my tablets. I like having a tablet or 2 around. Most of my small tablets, the tablets that I got with Windows 8 and 8.1 on them, I've gotten Windows 10 on. Some fought me more than others, but I've mostly got Windows 10 on them. And since those are just kind of throwaway consumption devices, I've got them on the fast ring of the Windows Insider program. And one of them I have spent most of today trying to get to upgrade. And you can't tell, I don't know if my power cable's long enough here, but it is almost finished here. So this one's upgrading right now, but this was an insider build. And last week at Build, they talked a little bit about what the new build of Windows has. I think it's going to have more better tile support. on the front page and all that. But if you've got the Windows Insider, go out there and run your updates, see what great new things are available. And last but not least, this is not something I have to talk about today, but apparently in 6 months or whenever I'm back doing this live, when I have 0 followers because Shane has driven them all away with his inconsequential, trivial stuff. I will talk about another gadget that I picked up. I have been for a year now, nearly, April last year. I got my first Amazon Echo. I don't know if you have an Echo, but we can find out quickly. Alexa, what time is it? All of you people that have Echoes are welcome. But the Amazon Echo is kind of like Siri or Google Now or Cortana for your house. It's a speaker and it does all the voice things and it's super handy. I love it. It would be a sad Klindt household if my children couldn't very easily with their voice make me suffer by listening to Taylor Swift and Meghan Trainor songs just by walking through the kitchen and say, she who shall not be named, play Meghan Trainor, and then run out of the room. Crap like that. But anyway, a month or so ago, Amazon announced that they were going to have 2 new versions of the Echo. So the Echo is pretty big. It's like the size of a Pringles can. It takes up a little bit of space. So they released 2 new versions. The Tap, which is essentially a Bluetooth speaker with the Alexa, the Amazon Echo functionality built in. And when you want to give it voice commands, you tap it and you talk to it, but it's battery powered, so you can take it to the beach or do wherever you have internet access. The other one that they announced was the Dot. And so the Dot is essentially the existing Echo, but somebody pushed on the top real hard and shrunk it down. It is the Amazon Echo, but without the speaker. And what you can do with the Dot, it has a little speaker in it. So it's kind of like the speaker that's in your cell phone. So you can, she talks back to you when you talk to her. You can do that kind of stuff. But then you can either hardwire or Bluetooth a speaker to her, and she will use that instead. So if you've got something like Sonos or whatever, you can hook it up to your Amazon Echo Dot and use it like a regular Echo, but have better sound. So I have no clue whatsoever what I'm going to do with this thing, but it was like $90 and I thought I would try it out. So between now and the next time I broadcast, I will have some information about this for you. But it has been great. Another thing that I haven't talked about much is it's got integration with all kinds of things. Amazon Music and Pandora and all these things, but a whole lot of home automation things. If you have a Nest thermostat, it can control that. Any number of lighting things. And over Christmas, I had some Christmas lights that were plugged in back behind my TV, way back in where it was tough to get at. So I bought for like $40. It was 40, a thing on Amazon, a Belkin Wemo plug. So it's a wireless home automation plug, and it doesn't require any service or anything like that. It's got a pretty good phone app, easy to set up. But the great thing about that is I can control with the Echo. So after I got the Wemo thing set up and got the app and named everything, I could just walk into the kitchen and say, Alexa, turn on the Christmas lights. And all of the Christmas lights that were connected to these Wemo boxes would just pop on. And then at night before we go to bed, Alexa, shut off the Christmas lights. They all closed down. And those little plugins were only $40 a piece. Took about 5 minutes to set up. If you guys have interest in that kind of thing, I can do a little, maybe not in a podcast, but maybe a one-off video on YouTube or something about how to set the Wemo thing up, because it was very easy to work with. It's using, and the Echo was the first device that I've seen that does this, so I'm sure there was something before it. But setting up new wireless things is kind of a pain. And so the way the Echo works and the way these Wemo devices work is if they're not configured, when you plug them in, if they don't have a wireless configuration, they start their own access point, and then you just join whatever you want to configure with your phone, your tablet, your computer, or whatever. You join that access point, and then you've got a screen where you can type and all that, and fill everything out. And then it reboots and connects to your wireless, which is glorious because you don't have to worry about all these crappy configuration apps. So that's what the Wemo does. And then it was easy to set up. I just plugged it in, gave it a name. Good stuff. So yeah, so if you guys have any interest in that, I'm happy to do like a little one-off video, kind of show it to you, show how it sets up. They're pretty handy little devices. For me, I've got the wife acceptance factor to worry about. They're really easy. No problems whatsoever. So for those of you that are interested in the Dot, I'll have something about that in a couple of weeks. Okay, so now if we can figure out how to move the slides, there I go. The shameless self-promotion piece of today's show. In 2 weeks, 2 weeks from today, I will be at Dev Intersection in Orlando, and that is April 16th through the 22nd. And on Tuesday, I'll be doing 2 sessions. One of them is SharePoint and Office 365 hybrid. And so this is kind of for people who have on-prem SharePoint, or I guess for people who are only Office 365, what are your hybrid options between the two? What ways can you wire SharePoint 2013 or 2016 into your Office 365? We'll be doing that session. And then a session on upgrading SharePoint 2016. We assume you've got 2013. 2016 is coming out here in a month from today. And here's how you'll be able to get set up. So if you're going to go to Dev Intersection, 2 pieces of advice for you. Number 1, come find me on Tuesday because I got to fly out early Wednesday morning. And number 2, when you sign up, use the promo code Klindt. Klindt. There are many, many benefits of using the promo code Klindt. We don't have time to go over all of them in the rest of the time that we have together today. One of them is my eternal gratitude. That's one of them. The other one is you get $50 in your pocket if you use that promo code. You will be able to dance better. You'll be able to play the violin better. People of the opposite sex will strangely find you more attractive unless you go the other way. Then whoever you want to find you attractive will find you more attractive. I can't explain it, but that seems to be the case. I've talked to a couple of people who've used the promo code Klindt, and it's been a life changer. And I don't want to question it, but I want to let everybody know. I want you all to be able to take advantage of the cleansing power of the promo code Klindt. So go to devintersection.com, sign up, promo code Klindt, Klindt, and you will get that. And I also get $50, but it's not about me. It's about what I can do for you, not about what you can do for me, what I can do for you. So that's Dev Intersection, April 16th through the 22nd. Then a couple weeks after that, May the 4th, a month from today, a Wednesday, I'll be doing an online presentation for the Oklahoma City SharePoint user group, and I will be doing PowerShell with Office 365 with that one. And after last week's performance, Bruce from the Office or from the Oklahoma City SharePoint user group saw Mark in action and said, I got to get me that guy. And so Mark's going to be presenting there too. So that's awesome. I was glad I was able to make that connection between the two of them. So if you're in the Oklahoma City area, show up for the May the 4th. On Star Wars Day, show up for the May the 4th session, and you'll be able to hear me. So Lori's asking, since I'm doing this on Star Wars Day, will there be any Star Wars references? I hadn't considered it, but sure, I'll try to work some in where I can. I don't see why not. Now that Lucas isn't in charge, it's a little less scary to do that. And then finally, in June 27th, SP TechCon Boston. I'm going to be out there with those guys for a week. So I'll be doing my configuring Azure Active Directory replication with Azure AD and PowerShell with SharePoint Online. So check me out there, sptechcon.com. Sign up for that. Come find me. I haven't made my arrangements for that yet, so I don't know, what days I'm going to be around. But as far as I know, just the regular time. So thanks to everybody. We got it right at about 32 minutes again. Again, I apologize in advance for next week with Shane. I couldn't feel worse about that if I tried. You're nice people. You don't deserve that. But go easy on him. He confuses easily. He's not very bright. So go easy on him in the chat room and all that. Speaking of the chat room, you guys stick around for a while. I will hang out in there. But everybody else, I will see you again in 3 weeks. You get Shane for the next 2 weeks. Thanks. Talk to you later.